So, just thought I'd record something. I haven't slept, so sorry if it sounds like shit. But oh well, I'm not gonna sleep until it's 9 a.m. and I don't really plan maybe like a 1 or 2 hour nap before 1 p.m. But I got to be up to do Community Day and Pokemon Go, and then I got to be back home after to actually get sleep. But that's not why I'm here today. Right now, I'm here to talk about a really disappointing album from a band that I absolutely adore. Now, I've talked about 3 Days Grace before on the channel plenty of times, talking about why I think Transit Venus doesn't get enough love, talking about why I think the self-titled album is pretty overrated and mostly just very top-heavy, why the final track of the 1X album is a masterclass in storytelling for an album, and why, or the different peaks and valleys that have come with the band, and how Alienation is an interesting case study when it comes to the highs and lows. Now, it's time to talk about a true disappointment. And that disappointment is the album Explosions. Oh boy. Let's just start off with what I ended up rating the album. For me, I ended up rating it a 4 out of 10, which is, for a lot of people, would be considered awful. For me, the way that I do ratings is like 5 is average, 6 is good. Anything below 5 is mediocre, and then it gets, or when it gets to 3, that's when you know it's bad, awful, never listen to again. And with it being set out of 4, that's a mediocre. Now, a lot of the reason for this is just because so many of the tracks are incredibly forgettable. Like, I am just going to be completely honest here. I listened to the album once, was so just none of the songs had any real hook to them. They didn't really have anything to set them apart from anything else that I was listening to at the time. And it's so forgettable the entire way through, with the exception of the worst song that 3 Days Grace has ever created. Now, having forgettable sections of an album is different from the entire album being forgettable. Now, I'll give Dear Agony as an example that I will get a lot of hate for. Like, the midsection of Dear Agony, I think, is where the album gets most forgettable. It doesn't really have too much that's really memorable to me in that midsection of the album. However, the first few tracks and the last few tracks are able to hold the foundation of the album together, making it able to maintain a higher score, even if not as high as Phobia would be for them. But when it comes to Explosions, they simply don't have that. They start off with the worst track that they've ever made, and then they just slowly, like, they go up from here to here, and then they plateau and stay there, which it's pretty disappointing to see, as this was an album that I, at the time it released, I had been so excited about. I had gotten into 3 Days Grace just about 2 years, I think, prior to the release of the album. And I knew that there was a pattern of every 3 years the group released a new track. And that was the first time where it didn't follow the every 3 years, most likely because of COVID. But looking back on it, like, I know that... Sorry, let me just refresh and try to find what I was going to say before I lost my train of thought. Okay. I think that a lot of the reason why I was not so devastated about it is because I was thinking, okay, look, yes, I am really excited for a new album, but at the same time, having more time and not being every 3 years and then having a few more months is most likely going to be a good thing. It means they can put more effort into the tracks because they're not on as strict of a deadline. It means that they can go over everything, they can make improvements, and then all that just to find out that that waited time didn't do much to improve the album at all. The only track that I would give anything above a 5 out of 10 would be Lifetime, and that's only a 6 out of 10, and just because it can be catchy and the vocals are solid from Matt for sure, but even that song is just forgettable. The only truly memorable song is one that I am finally going to get into now, So-Called Life. Easily, without question, 3 Days Grace's worst track that they've ever released, and I've gotten shitloads of hate for saying this. Obviously, it's expected from a Reddit, but that's also where you'll find the biggest 3 Days Grace groups. So, but yeah, a lot of people hate my fucking guts for this take, but I stand by it. So-Called Life is genuinely atrocious. It starts off with a bit of an interesting instrumental with a na 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 na. I don't really know how to describe it or what instrument they are using for that, but they completely drop that and lose all interest very soon just for a very samey kind of guitar chugging, which doesn't work nearly as well when you release the hook that actually drew me in at the start. Then Matt's vocals are just really bland. It's not something that it doesn't even reach up to his quality, because Matt is a great vocalist. Matt is an incredible vocalist. You can tell that he has talent from the work that he did with My Darkest Days before joining 3 Days Grace. And even when he was in his first not so great phase of just trying to mimic everything Adam did instead of changing the style of the vocals to what he did instead of what Adam did, even back in the Human era, some tracks did stand out for having more Matt style vocals instead of just a bland imitation, like Car Crash, for example, an incredibly underrated song, and it manages to soar so well because Matt just uses his style instead of trying to mimic someone else's. And then Outsider, we saw a lot of improvement with that. Matt became more comfortable making the band his, and he became more comfortable just bringing his own style into things instead of just going off someone else's. And Explosions, I don't know where all that got lost, especially with So-Called Life, because it is one of their most loved songs, but it's genuinely really fucking bad. The vocals being mediocre isn't even the worst part, unfortunately, because the worst part is the fucking lyrics. Like, I'm sorry, I cannot get through So-Called Life without genuinely bursting out laughing. The lyrics are that bad. It's not even on the level of a lot of fucking pop songs where I can just shake my head. No, this is straight up laughable lyrics. The funniest one throughout the entire song that I can think of is feels like I want to jump, want to scream, want to run, want to fucking put a chainsaw through the wall. And I get that the song is supposed to be like
obviously the themes of anger and frustration at a situation that you're forced in due to the conditions of something that aren't in your control. I understand that that's the messaging, but the lyrics are fucking terrible. It makes it to where the message is completely drowned out because the sound is genuinely atrocious throughout that entire track. And if it was just the one track, it would be different. I'm not going to say anything else reaches the same level of how awful so-called life is, because it does genuinely improve, and we don't have another track as bad as so-called life and explosions, but you have a lot of just really forgettable, mediocre average 5 out of 10 tracks that barely do anything to boost up the level of the album. And it makes it to where even though a lot of the individual tracks may be 5 out of 10s, when you blend all the tracks together to get the album score overall, it does get dropped to like a 4 out of 10, because it just there's nothing standout about the album other than its one lowest point, which it sucks to see, because like I've said several times, 3 Days Grace is one of my favorite bands. Hell, I'm fucking taking my little brother to see them in October. It was initially going to be his first concert before I found a Starset concert with Breaking Benjamin that I'm taking him to just a few weeks before then. And Explosion's just incredibly disappointing album. At some point, I'm going to go back and give it a second listen, see if it holds up a bit better. But as of now, these are my thoughts on it, and it just does not hold. It is genuinely just a really mediocre album, and so-called life is fucking terrible.